Welcome to Ocean Stories, a podcast hosted by me, Lydia Carey,
and me, Sarah Hursping. We may not be marine experts or even professional scuba divers, but we are curious about the ocean and ways to protect it.
Every week, we chat with conservationists, researchers, business owners, and anyone else with an ocean story to tell.
So whether you're a scientist or someone who's simply curious about the big blue, you're in the right spot. We can't save the seas alone,
but we can do it together.
Welcome from good old Germany, everyone, at least for my part.
Sarah is back in Europe. We're never in the same place.
Yeah, we were actually in the same time zone for like 48 hours, and we didn't even communicate.
We did nothing.
One bit of it. We did not take advantage of it. Yeah, I was in New York. It's also pretty fucking hysterical that there's a New York photograph right behind me, which is complete coincidence. This is the only spot in my parents' house where I can plug in my computer and have somewhat of a normal background.
That is actually so funny. Why is everyone in the world obsessed with having photos of New York in their house? Like, I get that it's beautiful. I don't know why I'm being a hater, but like, I'm like, it's just buildings. Like, everyone's like, New York.
I know. Okay, this one was my mom and me went on like a cutie little girls trip, which was my first time in the United States, which is so funny to think about now. Like 2018, pretty much the same time, was the first time I ever stepped foot in the United States. Before I actually dated Augustine, not knowing a single person from the United States, like literally roaming through the streets thinking like, whoa, people live in New York. Whoa, America is such a crazy place, blah, blah, blah.
What did you think being back in New York this time?
Well, it was overwhelming. I was like, holy shit, I am just not a big city girl at all. Like, I live my little barefoot San Diego life. I barely ever wear shoes. I'm just going to the beach, and like New York is just so overwhelming. When I grew up, I was always like, oh, I'm gonna move to the city, at least like within Europe. And I do still like I couldn't live fully remote somewhere where there's like no infrastructure, which is why I'm freaking loving the West Coast big cities, because you have like the beach and you have so much space, but there's still like downtown and shit happening.
Relate to this to the moon and back. I thought that I was like, New York is my destiny, just like every single other 19-year-old born in 1998, apparently, because everyone and their mothers has moved there. And then when I visit, I've only visited a few times, so it's not really fair, but I don't know if it's a place I want to live. I thought, though, that it was like the place for Lydia Carey, like that was going to be where I go and just thrive. And after living in Madrid, I don't know, that's the benefit of living in all different places. One of the pros of moving around and everything is seeing what you like, because when I lived in Madrid, I was like, to me, this is New York, but more chill. It's cleaner, less populated, affordable, extremely affordable. And I loved Madrid a lot, but I didn't feel like this is the place where I shine and thrive.
Yeah.
And live, laugh, love. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think you just like move around and just change your idea of what's good. And I feel like sometimes places suit you really well for a while. Like when I was 18, when I was in college, I needed a big city because I grew up very much not in a big city. And I was like, I loved every little bit of it. But now that I'm getting older, I'm like, I just need space, honestly. Like I just need the sun, the ocean, and space. I can't do cold.
It's so
I can't do
true.
busy.
Some places suit you for a while. I've never heard that actually, but I love that. It's like if you feel at home in a place for a certain amount of years, that's perfect. And then sometimes you grow out of it.
For sure. And I feel like a lot of people have the like running away from your problems mentality, which I guess to a certain degree makes sense. But people were like kind of on the train of like, oh yeah, you need to be able to whatever, find your happiness everywhere. Or it's just like a matter of like within yourself. To me, no. Yeah,
what you just said is so true. So true. I think it's because most of my major moves, actually all of them, I think, have happened like right around the time I had a major breakup. So people were like saying, there's this quote, wherever you go, there you are. That is so true. wherever you go, there you are. You bring your problems with you. Moving to some fantastical location doesn't make your problems go away. But I hate when people imply that the reason that I'm moving is because I can't find joy or enjoy where I am. Like, set the record straight. Like, I'm moving because I want to find a place that's best for me in life, and I don't know if I've found that place yet. Not because I'm avoiding my problems. I don't know. It's a complicated thing.
But there's also people that say once you find you a place, things will fall in place. And that's 100% how I saw things. There's people that thrive in nature and people that thrive in the mountains and skiers and whatever makes you happy. Like, go there. There's places for that. There's places where people only do that shit and you will be freaking thriving. Like, you will have the best time ever.
And it's true. You need to find happiness where you are. If you know me, then you know I've had the worst moving experiences ever. One day we can go into that. But I hate moving. So I wouldn't do it unless I really felt like there was some personal development goal to be achieved there for the long term of my life. Like, I'm not doing it on a whim. It's part of like what I feel is my journey of finding my best life. So cheesy. But then other people that don't move, I have no hate or no like diss to their journey too. I just mean that there's a lot of hate also I see towards people that don't want to move. I have a friend who lives in her hometown. And first of all, she has a gorgeous hometown. She has a lot of friends and community there. She's super close with her family. Girl, if that is your situation, do you. Like, don't let anyone moving all around make you think that that's what you have to do. If you found your place, stay there. I'm just moving around because, I don't know, I thought I found my place and they rejected my visa a bunch of times at Spain. But yeah, I think it's time for me to explore the West Coast.
Lydia is making moves to the West Coast. And
TBD.
Excited.
Bring it on. New chapter, new season of life. New episodes.
new season of Ocean Stories coming. But today we'll be talking to someone who is definitely way more experienced at moving around because she has lived in, I'm going to be saying this wrong, but 18 countries in the last 6 years. I don't know. She relocated like 3 times a year. Do the math yourself. And she is thriving and loving it, which is so crazy and cool. She has lived in the most beautiful places in the entire world. And
oh, I'm so jealous of that. And
bro.
I'm jealous. I feel like to move around like that, you have to have such an open heart. You have to be so like open-minded and just very, just a true lover of life, because I bet like shit has hit the fan for her moving all around like this. And look, she's still doing it. She's still thriving. Anyways, who are we talking about? Catsharks is our guest for today. Name reveal. She has dedicated her career to exploring the ocean. She's a marine biologist. She's a shark ecologist. She's studied sharks and done research on shark behavior. Right now, she's actually studying whales, though. Cat whales. No, her name is Catsharks. But she also obviously enjoys a healthy dose of world travel and adventure photography and videography. We wanted to have Kat on today to talk to us about ocean conservation and also to answer a bunch of our questions about sharks. So, very exciting stuff. Dun 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 dun. Jaws theme song. Inserted here. During this episode, we are working across 3 different time zones with 3 different internet connections, and it gets a little bit chaotic, but we bring you along for it. So thanks for your patience. Sometimes to talk to these really cool people, we got the lag issues. We got video cutting out at random times. It is what it is. We make it work.
Yeah, this one is a little bit funny from time to time, is because there's definitely a lag and we're just frozen every now and then, but just enjoy. It's awesome. Welcome, Kat. Thank you for joining us today. We're so excited. Where are you right now? I see it's dark in the background. What continent are you on? Where are you?
I am technically in Africa. I'm in Mauritius, so I'm off the coast of Africa, and it is 8:32 p.m.
Oh.
So it's nighttime.
Oh, wow. Thank you for joining so late. What are you doing there?
I'm actually working with the sperm whales out here. So I'm supposed to be, sharks is my normal background, but I got a little bit addicted to the sperm whales here. So that's what I'm focused on at the moment.
When did you figure out that you want to work in the ocean? Did you grow up close to an ocean? Or when was the point where you like, okay, the ocean it is, that's my career?
I didn't grow up that well. For an English person, I grew up about an hour and a half away from the ocean, which to us is an insane amount of time and very, very far. So I say I didn't grow up close to an ocean. I'm from Windsor, which is where Windsor Castle is. But it's been sort of a very inevitable thing from a very young age. There's home videos of me when I'm 2 years old, sat in front of the Little Mermaid, like, yes, this is going to be my life. And then my dad comes into the shot and he's like, watch this.
Wow.
And he turns off the TV and I burst into tears and he's like, and turns it back on. So my life goal at that age, around 2 to probably around 8, was to turn into a mermaid. And then when I realized that wasn't genetically realistic,
Wow.
then my life goal was to discover the mermaids. And then when I realized that wasn't realistic, I was like, well, what else has a tail? And since then it's been sharks forever.
It's the Little Mermaid
Amazing.
to marine biologist pipeline. I'm noticing some patterns here in the community.
Yeah, pretty much. If Ariel did it, we're all going to give it a go.
Fair enough. So did you study marine biology in the UK then, or did you go to a different place?
My undergraduate, I studied in the UK at Portsmouth University, which is by the ocean. And then for my master's, I did actually between Portugal and Australia. So at the University of the Algarve and then Curtin University. It was like a partnership between the two universities. I was very lucky. Well, very determined, but also right place, right time. It was amazing.
Do you have to be a diver before you start studying marine biology?
No, not at all. You have to, it's honestly just a thing of determination. I remember doing the entry forms for university, and it was all of them, or planning to do the entry forms. It was like, you have to do maths, you have to do chemistry, you have to do biology. And I was like, I'm very stupid, so I'm not going to do the first 2 of those under any circumstances. And I didn't do well in class really ever throughout my life. I was kind of always middle. I wasn't like the lower thing, but I never did particularly well. And I remember my teacher in a parents teacher conference taking my parents aside and saying, you have to get her to give up on this dream because she's not intelligent enough to get into the university that she wants to, and she'll just not be able to do anything. And I was like,
What?
well, what you don't know is I'm powered almost entirely on spite, and now I will absolutely be doing this even more than I already was. But they meant well. But for my A-level results, for my AS, which is like the year before university, I got an E in biology, which is very, very bad. And technically they were right. But yes, I was very determined. And that was really what got me to
That's
where I am.
wild. You took that and you used it to power your energy and all of that, and look where you are now.
Yeah, truly. I did go to visit that teacher after I'd been working in the Maldives for 6 months, probably like 10 years ago now. And I went to visit her and was like, hi, how are you doing? She's like, you look very brown. And I was like, yeah, because I've just been living in the Maldives working with sharks for 6 months. And she was like, oh, congratulations. It was a very satisfying moment for me.
Did she have a big reaction, or was she just silently perturbed?
No, she was actually very happy for me, but I think she was surprised because she genuinely meant the best when she was saying I should quit, and the fact that I'd managed, I think she was happy. She was pleased to be wrong, I think, but it was still very cathartic moment for me.
Yeah, it's nice. It's like you shouldn't let your difficulties with one subject hold you back from pursuing what you really want. Like, I'm not good at math either. Here we are.
Yeah.
Just pushing through every day.
This makes me want to go back to my high school, just talk to some teachers.
Yeah, be like, hey, look where I am now. Exactly.
So I want to know, You went to university, you became a marine biologist. At what point did you decide sharks, and where did that journey take you? Because it seems you've done a lot of traveling. I just want to know all about it.
It's just in minute by minute detail. It's very much always been sharks was always the goal. So
Ooh, a
my
love story.
undergraduate,
It sounds like it's always
a
been
love
sharks.
story with these guys. My undergraduate thesis was with lionfish, and looking at their invasion. They're an invasive species. We'll not delve into that because that will take me 7 hours to talk about. But one of the things I always found the most fascinating about that was the shark's role in hunting the lionfish, because where they are not invasive, where they've co-evolved, the sharks are a natural predator, and one of the goals of their invasion is training the sharks to eat them again so that they'll control the populations. And I was more fascinated about
We're training the sharks?
not training per se, but we'd go spearfishing and we would leave the lionfish behind on the rocks do you know what a lionfish is? Have you seen them before? They're like a big, scary
Yeah, the
looking
spiky
animal.
ones that have the tiger pattern.
Yeah, right? Like you see that in the wild and you're not going to be like, that looks like an edible snack for me to try. But if it's dead on a rock, you might be like, oh, I'll give that a little nibble. I don't know if if the video goes up online, but I'm doing a demonstration. This is me as a shark. But basically showing them that
That's
if you
exactly
know
how
how
I
to eat
picture
it,
them.
yeah, you should be a shark ecologist. But yes, and just basically showing them that they're not venomous. You can eat them, you can ingest them, and you'll be completely safe. And they're quite tasty. So over time, getting the sharks to trust that it's a source of food for them.
I have never heard of that as an form of invasive species control.
It's actually not just the sharks. It was also barracudas, moray eels, groupers, any animal that would eat them in their natural habitat, which is like the Coral Triangle, so Indonesia, Australia, that's where they originally came from, the lionfish. Anything. So it wasn't particularly sharks. That was just my favorite. But we would just leave them around and hope that they would get hunted. And it's quite a common thing that they still are doing to this day, I think.
So you say you always had a love story with sharks. Me, as a little scaredy cat on this end, were you ever scared, or was there never any fear?
No, there's never been a fear. I think I've always just blindly loved them. I actually never saw Jaws growing up, and my family aren't particularly ocean loving, or like particularly passionate. So there's never been that conversation for me to learn that sharks are scary, or not. And then coming out of university when I graduated, the first job, I skipped my graduation to move to Indonesia to get my dive master. But from there, I went to the Philippines to work with the whale sharks there, who are obviously a very gentle species of shark. So by working with them extensively for months, I got used to sharky behavior and I began to understand that. So then when I began to work with the more intimidating species, I had a lot of experience and comfort in the water with elasmobranchs. And so I think it just developed from that.
It really has all of the elements of a great love story. Pushing past your parents, pushing past the fear, never having a fear, but everyone else being afraid, skipping graduation to pursue a dive certification. It has all of the elements of a great story.
Yeah, you can imagine me just running through the airport like, I'm going to see the sharks, instead of skipping my graduation. That's pretty much what happened.
Now that you've done all of that, what does a normal day in your life look like as a shark ecologist or sperm whale marine biologist? What have you? Whatever type of ologist you are at the moment.
Yeah. At the moment, actually, my day in the life is very different to what it would usually be. So sort of during COVID, I snuck away a little bit from research and got really into underwater photography. So actually what I came out here to do was the underwater photography rather than any research. But since arriving here, I've discovered it's actually illegal to swim with the sperm whales here. But everyone does it anyway.
Wow.
And
Why is
yeah,
it illegal?
it was made illegal in 2012 pretty much because it was done so badly. And no one did it for a little bit.
Oh,
And
okay.
then everyone realized, oh, it's illegal, but no one's going to do anything about it. So everyone swims with them anyway. But because it's illegal, they're like, well, if I'm already doing a crime, then I might as well be completely blindly disrespectful to the whales. And you get guides in the water letting their clients dive down and try and touch the whales, dive down and like bother them. Like you get huge groups of people in the water at a time, and it's just really sad
Mm.
to see. So I've ended up getting a little bit involved with the government, doing a little bit of work with National Geographic to basically raise the profile of the whales here to get it legalized so that we can get it regulated.
I feel that's a theme in other things too. If something is illegal, the illegal ways around it tend to skirt all the rules.
Yeah, yeah, which is
Okay.
exactly what's happening.
And so how has that conservation effort gone, or the raising awareness effort? How's it going?
It's kind of, I kind of fluctuate between feeling very pessimistic and very optimistic, depending on honestly the week and who I'm talking to. I remember when I first started working with National Geographic, that really felt like a breakthrough, and they were coming out on the boat and filming and capturing the good, the bad, the ugly. We're trying to document the bad stuff and the misbehavior and that kind of thing, but also I think from the government's perspective, that's what they're hearing constantly is like, this is bad, we should just keep it illegal. So now what I'm trying to do is lead good interactions with people who come to visit me, the lovely lady who lent me these earphones included,
Mm.
and capture incredible moments to show like, hey, if you run the interactions well, this is what everyone can experience. Like if everyone has a limit to the number of people on board, a limit to the approach distance for humans in the water and for boats, like a guidance on approach direction, like there's all sorts of things we could add to improve the in-water experience for everyone and the whales. It's an easy concept, but it's definitely an uphill battle.
For sure. I can imagine that can be a tiring journey advocating for the whales. What do you find is your major source of inspiration? What keeps you going?
Honestly, it sounds really cheesy, but just spending time with the whales it just makes like, I mean, they're sperm whales. These animals, the females grow up to 14 meters, the males grow up to 16 meters. They're just absolute giants. And then the
They're
babies,
gigantic.
oh, they're giant. They're
Wow.
just, and you're like, and it's just every single time is mind blowing. And they're a super social species. Like they'll just nuzzle each other, and they've got these tiny little T-Rex arms. T-Rex pectoral fins, to use the scientific terminology, and they're just. But you just feel like they're cuddling when they're together, and it's so sweet. And watching them nurse, watching them be together, like watching the males come through in the breeding season and be with their children. And we have a good idea of the population here. We think there's about 50, of which there's 11 females and like
50
18
of those
kids
giant
around.
megafauna, as you said earlier.
Yeah, yeah. But so learning about their lives and seeing, there's one who's my favorite. He's called Tache Blanche. Whenever she's there, sorry. I'm like, that's my favorite. This is my favorite whale. So getting to introduce people to her in the water is amazing.
How do you recognize her?
She's got a little, it almost looks like someone's put a blob of paint on her tummy and then gone like that. And so it's just like a big white splodge with like two kind of big paintbrush swipes coming off. And there's other ones. There's one who I actually don't know what his official name is, but he looks like he's got a little marijuana thing under his tummy. I've called him Boris. I've stopped seeing him recently. I think he's left for the season. But yeah, they all have, a lot of them have
He's
spots
gone
that are
away.
really easy to, yeah. Well, so the males only come through during winter, which is winter in Mauritius at the moment. It's just ending. So
Oh,
they're
okay.
starting to leave, and then they go out to colder, deeper waters to forage for bigger squid. Giant squid is what they hunt.
I find it so amazing that they come back and you kind of have your whale shark friends, and they have the entire ocean, but they circle back, and that you'll get to see them again, even though they technically have anywhere to go, like the entire ocean to go to. So that must be really special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the migration patterns are absolutely insane.
Yeah, and that they have personalities.
Yeah.
Such cute little personalities.
What would a normal life as a shark ecologist look like? Because you said right now you're doing something that's quite different to your regular life, or your your regular life, but your regular work. So what did it look like before? Were you on different projects all over the world, or were you in a specific place doing some specific research?
So I was moving a lot. I've lived in 18 countries in the last 9 years. So I relocate sort of every 3 to 6 months. Yeah. And, so yeah, I wouldn't say there's a consistent day in the life. But from like my favorite projects, for example, would have been probably working in the Azores with the blue sharks. And that was tagging.
I've always wanted to go there. In Portugal, right?
Yeah. Well, it's way in the middle of the ocean, but it's owned by Portugal. It's
okay.
Amazing. You must go. And the diving's amazing, and the
Add it
island
to
is
the
amazing.
list.
The people are amazing. Yeah, add it to the list, but like push it up to the top. But yeah, so we were doing a lot of tagging for behavioral studies, and we were basically, what we were trying to work out was their behavior in the presence and absence of humans, because these Azores, they used to do shark fishing and they basically stopped it, and now shark ecotourism is becoming a popular thing, and the diving with them. So the university basically came in and was trying to do some research to look into, obviously it's a huge upgrade from shark fishing, but still, is chumming and feeding sharks detrimental to the overall health of the blue shark and mako shark populations there? So we were basically looking at how they behaved after swimming with humans, which would usually result in a deep dive.
It's like there's over-tourism happening of the sharks, which is not something that I would predict exists in the world.
Yeah. Well, actually, no. It was a really impressive time to do the study, because they literally they basically brought it in really soon into when the tourism was happening, and it was sort of a preemptive thing, like, could over tourism happen? And I think because of that study and a number of other things, it's really, really well done there. Like, that's one of the places in the world where I would say shark feeding in general is a grey area, especially, like, for example, in the Philippines where I was working in Oslo, it's really, really unhealthy for the whale sharks. It prevents their migrations, it prevents them from foraging from their own food, and it's not enough food for them. So they're slowly getting used to a lesser diet, which is really, really bad for their survival long term. But in the Azores, it's chum, and it's really, really limited amounts that you're allowed to put in the water. So all it really does is provide people who would otherwise maybe never have the chance to see a shark the opportunity to swim with them and experience that and fall in love with them, and therefore inspire conservation, to simplify it.
Yeah, that moment of connection.
Sorry, I have a plane flying over my house right now.
I just love the lag.
So generally, what you say... Yeah, I really wonder what this is going to be like when we listen back to this, but I'm sure it's fine. So just to go back to shark diving, what's your general opinion about it? So you would say if it's done right, it's actually a really really good thing to do because people get to connect to sharks and get to connect to the ocean. But obviously there is probably a lot of gray zones where people, like you said, are feeding sharks, or it's just over tourism. But yeah, generally you would say there is a way to do it, and to do it in a good way.
Yeah, for sure. If it's done well, I think it's the best thing that you can do for conservation. There's all, those quotes like a picture is worth 1,000 words. If that's the case, an experience is probably worth 1,000,000. Like the amount of people I've taken in the water, friends or family or clients, and they've like burst into tears afterwards and been like, I didn't expect it to feel like that. Or like, I feel like one of the main reactions I get when I'm taking someone who's never swum with sharks before is almost not disappointment, but they're almost like, oh, I expected that to be really adrenaline filled. I expected to be really scared, but it was just a really calm moment. Like I just felt myself like just staring at the beauty of this animal, and I'm like, yeah, that's what it is. Like it's a peaceful moment that you can share with the most beautiful animal in existence. So yeah, when it's done right, I think
that's incredible.
Yeah, shark interactions are great.
Are there some type of sharks that it's easier to dive with? Like, I think, for example, for great whites, there's a lot of this cage diving. I don't know if that's necessary, but are all sharks kind of equal, or would you say there are some sharks where it's like way easier to dive with? I mean, probably whale sharks and some smaller sharks, but generally speaking?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, any smaller shark or like a nurse shark, or if you go to the Maldives and go snorkeling, you're likely to encounter lots of reef sharks that are all super, super gentle and small. Whale sharks, as you said, are great because they can't chew food anyway. Same with basking sharks. They couldn't bite you even if you made them really, really angry. But generally speaking, I would say it's about knowing who to go with. Like I've worked with tiger sharks a fair amount. I've probably swum with tiger sharks 300 times, maybe 400 times, and there's never been a moment where I'm like, oh, I'm in danger. But that's because I know whether I'm in danger or not. So if you're with someone who knows how to keep you safe and you feel safe, then the shark will know that you feel safe and will think, oh, they must feel safe because they're not prey. I'll leave them alone.
Can sharks sense emotions? Just kind of like, because people say, if you're scared of the dog knows. Would you say a shark has kind of the same?
Yeah. In probably a different, I don't really know how dog senses work. Maybe in the next lifetime I'll be a dog ecologist. But with sharks, they've got this sixth sense. It's in their noses or in their snouts. They've got these little black dots called the ampullae of Lorenzini, and it basically picks up electrical senses, aka they can sense your heartbeat. So, and they can feel your movements in the water. So it's the difference between, I dive down, I'm looking at the shark, I'm completely calm. On a free dive, when I'm at depth, my heart rate will fall to about 40 beats per minute. So they're looking at this other animal that's a similar size to them, that's completely still, completely chilled out, not going anywhere, just hanging. There's no reason for them to be at all interested in that. Whereas you get a human at the surface who sees a shark and they're like, shark! They're making a load of noise, which none of their prey usually does. So they're like immediately interested in that. Then you're splashing, trying to swim away. They're like, that's what fish do when they're trying to escape me because they know I might eat them. Does this thing think I might eat it? Should I eat it? And that's kind of what's going through its brain. It can feel your pulse is like you're scared. And its assumption is this thing must be scared of me because I might eat it. And then it might take a little nibble.
I've never heard it broken down that way.
This changes my perspective right now. This is the perfect breakdown. But then I'm wondering, I live in Southern California and we have quite some great whites down here. They're apparently all small. I'm seeing all these drone footage at the spots that I'm surfing at and I'm like, cool, this is amazing. And then I'm like, don't surfers automatically splash. Like when we paddle and then you duck dive and you turtle your board, I'm always like, isn't that technically bad if there are sharks around? Because I mean, they must be super used to it because there's thousands of surfers here every day and nothing ever happens. But sometimes I'm like, how do they not want to tag me right now?
That is one of the big things is with surfers, because you have your little arms and your little legs over the side of the board, and from below, because sharks don't have amazing eyesight, from below you do look a little bit like a seal. But you've probably also seen a lot of drone footage where they come closer and then swim away, because they come closer like, oh, a seal, that's my favorite snack. Oh, gross. No, it's not. It's that human thing again. And swim away. And it is for sure, they're getting more used to seeing them. Sorry, the sharks are getting more used to seeing humans, but yeah, attacks do still happen. But a statistic that I've read years ago, and I've held this in my mind forever, 96% of shark attacks are one bite. Which is basically a case of mistaken identity. So they go and they bite you. They don't have hands, right? So they're like a baby trying to work out what's happening, but they have to use their mouth. And that exploratory bite, trying to find out what you are, they're like, oh, gross, I don't want to eat that. And they leave you alone. However, obviously sharks being big animals with big teeth, that one bite can be fatal. So it's a case of making sure that you are identifiable in the water.
They get a taste and they don't like it. They said, we don't like the taste of humans. So
like, there's olives in this. Gross.
I also heard that because the sharks here are quite small, that they're actually eating the stingrays. So I'm kind of thinking of them like the spiders in my room eating the mosquitoes, the sharks eating the stingrays.
So if they're small, as you say, if they're younger, they go throughout their lives. Great whites will go through an ontogenic diet shift, which is basically they eat different food as they grow up. So if you've got the younger ones there, then yeah, their diet would never ever be anything similar to a human. So you'd probably be completely safe. Touch wood.
That's what I was thinking, because we have a huge seal population here as well. And they also never attack the seals. Like you never really ever see a shark eating a seal. And there's hundreds of seals. So I'm like, okay, you go over there and eat a seal if you're really hungry and leave us over here surfing.
You should get a sign on the bottom of the board
shark
that says seals that way.
Yeah. Yes. Is there a type of shark you have not yet seen in the water but you would really love to see?
A basking shark I've seen from a boat but not in the water. And I would absolutely, do you know the basking shark? It's like if you took all the spots off a whale shark. Basically, if a great white shark and a whale shark had a child together, it would look a little bit like the basking shark. So it's a filter feeder, but it's completely grey, but it's still that giant size. They get up to 14 meters, I think. But yeah, I just had my first good oceanic whitetip encounter yesterday, and I just about lost my mind. It was incredible. We were there. The sperm whales were like socializing, so that was amazing for everyone to see. And then the boats, all the people on the boat suddenly started freaking out, and we were like, "What's happening? Like, what is happening?" My first instinct was maybe there's like a sperm whale being born or something, because everyone's really losing their mind. And then they were like, "Get out of the water! Get out!" And we're like, "What?" They're like, "There's a shark! Get out of the water!" I was like, "There's a shark? Where?" Like dive down and go and find it, and I just spent like
yes.
Oh, it was incredible. She was gorgeous. It was like this little female just swimming around on her own. She's my best friend now. That was amazing. She's my best friend.
So I want to go back a little bit to, well, you said you're relocating every 3 to 6 months. Is there like a really tight ocean community? So whenever you move, do you already know people, or do you kind of have to start all over again every 3 to 6 months because you go to a place and don't know anybody? Because I assume that can be hard for some people, especially if you want to choose to be a marine biologist and live that lifestyle. What is that like for you?
For me, it's amazing because I love meeting new people. I'm like a puppy in that sense. There is definitely a very tight-knit community, that usually, because I'm on Instagram, I'm very active on Instagram a lot, so I'll usually get somewhere and realize I already know someone, through cyberspace at least, so we'll become friends in real life, which is always really nice. Um, it's very much my choice to keep moving. Like, well, I worked in Australia with the whale sharks there for about 6 months. At the end, the company offered me sponsorship to stay in Australia, and I was like, I just have to go and see the world. With Azores, they offered me a position at the university, and I was like, I just need to pop off. And the same with the Maldives. They
Can't stay
offered me to
put.
stay on. I can't stay put. But so it's moving to a new country is scary. It gets less scary every single time. Like, I'm now at a point where I'm just like, this is amazing and I love it. But if you're going for a job in marine biology, usually you get there and you just immediately meet all these lovely, like-minded people. And you just immediately, within the first, I don't know, 48 hours, you're like, I have some new best friends. And it's incredible. So it feels easier every time because you know that you're going to meet friendly
That's
people if you're
amazing.
working in this kind of career.
That's a beautiful thing. Do you have any particular place that has a special place in your heart or a favorite place you've lived?
Yeah, French Polynesia in Moorea. Well, between Moorea and Tahiti. Until I went there, people would ask that question, and I'd be like, how can you choose? Everywhere is so unique and amazing. And now I'm like, it's Polynesia is the best place in the world. Um, it's here, actually, here
We've
in
heard some amazing
Mauritius.
things.
Oh my goodness, you must go. It's just, you've got the humpback whales, you've got the tiger sharks, you've got the rays and the black tips that hang around, you've got the visibility, you've got the healthy corals, you've got the hikes on the land. The people are so lovely, so friendly. Like, I speak a little bit of French, so I love practicing French there because they're so patient with my bonjour, comment t'appelles-tu? It's
Oh,
just
that's
everything
lovely.
about the island is lovely. Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's gonna be on top of our list now, and then the Azores on top,
Yeah.
on the second one, and
Yeah.
we'll just have to hop on and relocate every 3 months from now on, Lydia.
So
I
many
would
places on the
recommend it.
list.
Honestly, I would recommend it. The
It's
Azores
just too
would be up there,
amazing.
but it's a little bit colder. Um, just enough that it's not my
Oh,
favorite.
okay.
Otherwise, it would be.
I agree. It needs to be warm. No winter.
Says you surfing in Southern California. It's freezing there, no? The
It,
water.
yeah. I mean, I just got here from Germany, so I'm still, everything
Mm,
is better than that.
yeah.
Uh, the water gets pretty cold, I guess. Yeah. You definitely need a thick wetsuit in the winter.
Oh, sorry. I'm having really bad lag problems, you guys. So I'm sorry. I cannot see you guys or anyways, okay. But in case you're wondering why I'm just sitting here smiling, I love the emphasis that you put on having these in-person experiences. I'm such a big believer that when people can see things with their own eyes, they just have such a different opinion on conservation and on actually taking action to do something about it. Fun fact is that I am not dive certified. I've actually never even been I've never scuba dived in my life. But I actually think it's fun because that means that the role of the photos and videos that people like you have taken have
Mhm.
definitely had some sort of impact on me because I still have such a, you know, connection. I was just checking out some of your videos before this, looking
Mhm.
at the sperm whales all together, and then they're just these gigantic creatures, and then there's just you just swimming next to them, and I don't know, it's crazy.
Uh,
It's hard to believe
I
unless
guess,
you see it on video, honestly.
yeah, it is. There's a lot of things that I hear and I'm like, that's not possible. And then I watch a video and I'm like, oh, okay. Well, Um, I think for my posting and like what I create has been really good in terms of getting jobs and networking, and like inspiring people to come out and visit me. It makes people want to see these things themselves. And I feel like it's one way that I know that I'm making a difference. Like, I know I'm making people fall a little bit in love. and hopefully inspiring them to come and see it for themselves. And I kind of know that because that's how I feel when I'm watching other people, whether it's strangers or my friends or people who are technically strangers, but we've, been friends on the internet for however long, seeing stuff that they post, like for example, Tonga with the humpback whales. I've never been there, but I consider it one of my favorite places in the world. I'm actually going to be running trips there next year because of what I've seen and how I know it's run and how people not just post and how the videos look, but also the captions and how you can see people trying to educate you and people trying to share that knowledge with the world and not just be like, here's a pretty picture I took. That has a really big impact on me and where
Yeah,
I decide to
sharing it.
travel. Yeah.
It's like the power of social media for good. There's a lot of doom and gloom on there.
Yeah.
And I love seeing people's beautiful moments and reflections. And that's one good thing that social media has done for the climate/ocean movement, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, I think so. No, I for sure agree with that. And so I try to stay a part of that community and keep it. And with the sperm whales, I've been trying to not post too much because I don't want to bring too many people here while the industry is at this delicate point. But at the same time, like I just want people to see like what it could be if it's done amazingly. But yeah, I think social media is a very powerful way to inspire people.
That's a tough balance for sure. You want people to see them, but it has to be done in the right way. And over-tourism can be detrimental, but also this type of tourism could really inspire people. So,
Well, you certainly inspired us to add some new places to the list and get in the water with all these amazing creatures. That's 2024 has to be the year. We love to ask this final question. I feel like you already told us about so many amazing experiences, but if you had to pick one, do you have one favorite experience in the water from the past decades of diving?
Yeah, I actually do. And I feel bad that this hasn't changed since it was 2016 that this happened. And there should have been, it just was the most amazing day of my whole entire life. So I was working with the whale sharks in Ningaloo Reef in Western Australia, and there was this one whale shark that no one else could keep up with in the water. And my job as guide and photographer was to mark the whale. So I swim with it so that people can try and get in and get a look because they can look for my arm in the water. So I was swimming alone with this shark for, I think it was more than an hour. Maybe it was an hour and a half. No one else could keep up with it. I was exhausted beyond belief and I was about to like give up on swimming with it and be like, let's try and find a slower shark. And I saw like a little blob down below and I was like, what's that? What's going on there? And I kept swimming with the whale shark and I was looking down and it swam up and I was like, that's an animal. It kept coming up and it was a hammerhead shark. And I didn't know what was happening at the time. At the time, all I saw was the whale shark and the hammerhead shark went and did this like crazy like little circle pattern on the whale shark, and then they both just sort of swam away into the deep. I burst into tears, got back into the boat crying my eyes out. Everyone's like, what's happening? And I was like, boo. And they were like, she's seen a hammerhead shark. But I've looked it up since, and what happened is, so all sharks have these dermal denticles, which is basically, it's their skin cells, but they're like razor blades. So in one direction it's really smooth, and one direction it's super rough, to help them with ergodynamics to swim faster. But because whale sharks have thicker skin, the dermal denticles are rougher, so they're the roughest skinned shark, one of the roughest skinned sharks. So apparently, famously, other sharks will use them as scratching posts. So what I saw was a hammerhead seeing a whale shark.
No
and
way.
like, I'm gonna go scratch myself on this little whale shark, and literally it went. And so, it was just the most amazing moment that I've ever seen in my life.
That's so funny.
Yeah. It was insane. It was.
I would have thought that they're about to fight.
Better. Yeah.
I wouldn't have expected a whale shark to have such rough skin. I don't know why, but I always imagined them to be like super smooth, like a dolphin or something. So that's interesting.
They are in one direction. I've tagged quite a few, and if it's that way, if you're stroking along, not stroking, but if you're tagging and using them to hold still, in one direction it's super smooth, and if you go the other direction, it's really rough. I've had one swim into me and crush me.
Can it injure
between
you?
Another shark, and I had like a only if you're. So I had one accidentally swim in. I was taking a photo of one shark and another one who's kind of famous for being a little bit stupid. Whale sharks, this is. Swam into me and essentially crushed me between two whale sharks at 16 meters, which was a delight to try and swim back up to the surface. For
my
that.
God.
But I just had like a tiny little graze on my hip for 2 weeks. I was really hoping it would scar, and it never did. But even that.
Oh my God, you were hoping it would scar.
Oh, that's
like
the
a
crazy
cool-
story. Oh, I was just caught between two whale sharks in the open ocean. No big deal.
The stupidest shark in the ocean just swam into me.
I did not know there were famous sharks. Their personalities are so strong that some of them are well known, apparently.
It's in the community. This was in the Philippines where we were doing research on them. And it's just this one individual. They're named by numbers. She was called 185, and she was like a particularly small shark and just seemed to have no concept of spatial awareness whatsoever. And she was all over the shop.
Sharks, they're just like us. No, I'm just kidding.
That one's my spirit animal.
You said you were running an expedition to Tonga or something? Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, Tonga, and planning Norway.
Oh, wow. Can anyone who is comfortable in the water join, or is it only for experts?
No, anyone who's comfortable in the water. It's the whole goal of it is I guess it's even more aimed at people who are comfortable, or who want to become comfortable in the water, because that's the kind of people that I want to experience this. But yeah, I'm going to work on releasing the trips probably in the next fortnight, and that will be announced on my Instagram, which is Catsharks, and probably on my website as well, which is www.catsharks.co.uk.
Well, maybe you'll find Lydia and me on one of those trips.
Yes, or both of you. Yes. And it's snorkeling,
yes,
so you don't need to be able to scuba dive.
I'm going to sign up. Well,
Sick.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast. We've learned a lot about the cute little sharks everywhere around the world, and what it's like to be a marine biologist or a shark ecologist or whale ecologist. It was a blast.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. And round 2 in Tonga, and then Norway.
Yes, 100%. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Ocean Stories. If you'd like to follow along on Instagram, you can find us at oceanstories_podcast for updates and behind the scenes.
We'll also be sharing our ocean adventures on YouTube at Ocean Stories Podcast. If you like this episode, please show your support by leaving a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Join us next Tuesday for more Ocean Stories.